Welcome back to Business and Leisure. For this week's upcoming feature on Business Movers, it is our pleasure to present a gentleman who is known to the Philippine manufacturing scene as a champion of Philippine-made goods, but lately he has also been a very visible figure in the local automotive industry. Watch this.
George Chua is the current president of the Federation of Philippine Industries, an organization that champions the cause of Philippine manufacturers. Of Chinese descent, he belongs to the new crop, a generation that is not as steeped in the old traditions as his ancestors before him.
I don't think we can say that all of the Chinese here are pure Chinese, because through the many generations that the Chinese has been interacting with the Philippines, a lot of them have intermarried. Like in my case, I can say that I'm not pure Chinese anymore. As a matter of fact, I have difficulty speaking in Chinese.
His father grew up in Manila, but his mother is from Tayabas, Quezon. George himself was also born in Manila, the second of 4 siblings, and grew up in Parañaque.
I have an older sister and a younger sister and a younger brother. My parents have always been businessmen, entrepreneurs, and that's pretty much also the career path that my siblings have taken. Yeah.
With such a family background, it is easy to assume that George would take the same career path, that of an entrepreneur.
My father was in the electrical supplies business, so since he was a very single, he has had his own electrical supplies retailing store. Yeah.
However, George took a separate path altogether, influenced perhaps by his education in the Philippines. He is a proud Lasallian, a green archer from high school up to college, where he graduated in 1981 with a double degree in engineering, a degree in Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering, and a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. He says it took him all of 5 years and 5 summers to earn his double degrees, but it was well worth it for him.
I thought engineering was a good discipline because it enabled you to understand many things about how things function, how things move, and as you know, I think that has helped me a lot in my career as well.
After working for a while, his parents sent him to earn his master's degree in business administration at the prestigious Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States.
So right after coming from my MBA stint, I got hired at Citibank in New York and then got sent home for what they call a home country assignment. So that's how I started, and I stayed with Citibank for maybe more than 5 years. And then I moved on to Asian Bank, where I stayed for maybe 10 years. And then eventually Asian Bank was bought by the Metro Bank Group. And I stayed with them for maybe another year before moving on.
His banking career included years in Citibank and Asian Bank, which is quite a departure from his original love, which is the field of engineering. But George doesn't see it that way.
Engineering, it's a very disciplined course, no? So you're taught about a lot of logical things, you're good in numbers. So it's very, and of course I have my MBA degree, which is in management and in finance, no? So that really complemented each other quite well. After that, I went into the manufacturing side. I was president and chief operating officer of a paper mill. And then I moved on to become CFO of another manufacturing, another company in the food industry. And then after that, I became Chief Operating Officer of Armscor, the firearms manufacturer. And then having gone through my stint there, I decided to just focus on our own mga family businesses.
In the midst of all these, an opportunity came to try his expertise in yet another field.
My wife's side of the family has always been with Universal Motors. They were the founders of this, her grandparents, her uncles were all the ones who started this Universal Motors. And when the distributorship for Nissan went back to the Japanese, no, and they just became shareholders, they decided that they wanted to do something to stay in the distribution business. No? So that's why they were able to identify BAIC as a new brand that they will distribute, which we were able to sign up, and they said that they wanted me to run it. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I managed to invest also in that new company, no, that will distribute the BAIC vehicle. So that's why we're here.
Of course, it is common knowledge in the automobile industry that the Lee family is one of the pioneers in automobile distribution here. And with George's background in business administration, it was no surprise that the family would turn to him to steer the company into the same direction, but with a completely different bag. Perhaps his love for automobiles has just been latent all this time because George remembers that while in school, he spent all of his spare time in between classes tinkering with cars. In fact, he ventured into buying and selling cars at an early age and making decent money from there. With most of his varied interests now pursued, George found that payback time is here. He allots time for his many advocacies, one of which is championing the cause of the manufacturing industry in the Philippines.
I think it's something that is part of our advocacy, which I believe in. And as you know, our tagline in FPI is the voice of industry, no? And we also like to think that we encourage people to buy local so that we can provide jobs for our fellow Filipinos, no? So to that extent, yes, I believe in industrializing the Philippines. And the best way we can do that is by leveling the playing field for the Philippine manufacturing sector, both in the agricultural and in the industrial sector. I'm currently also involved in other professional organizations like FINEX, the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines, where I'm a lifetime member. And I'm also currently in the board of FINEX, where I sit as not just a board member, but I'm also vice president in FINEX. The other positions that I hold is I'm a member of the Industry Development Council, which is really a government agency, no? Which is chaired by the DTI secretary. And as president of the FDI, I am his co-chairman. Wherein the Industry Development Council, the objective is of course to find ways to industrialize the Philippines. No? And I'm also involved in the Philippine Quality Award, which is a presidential award, a Philippine President Award, that provides for recognition to companies that are quality oriented. No? I'm vice chairman of the board of judges of the Philippine Quality Award. So essentially, it's really more out of trying to give back to the Philippines what little we can contribute. I'm also a reserve officer in the Armed Forces of the Philippines. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Philippine Army, and I'm currently the head of the Media Affairs Group of the Civil Military Affairs Brigade in the AFP Reserve Command. So again, that's all pro bono work. We serve as volunteers, as reserve officers in the armed forces.
With so many involvements in different businesses as well as civic and professional organizations, we wondered how George Chua can find time to attend to all his functions as officer of these organizations, or even find time for relaxation. This businessman who looks up to his father, a self-made man, as his role model, sums up his answers to this.
The ability to find time for relaxation is really up to you, no? By becoming efficient, by doing multitasking activities, you will be able to find time for certain endeavors, no? Because a lot of time, if you think about it, it's just wasted. So it's really a matter of being able to do certain things with a purpose, so you can do things in a much more efficient manner, and therefore free up time for both either charity work or for both leisure time. Yes, spending time with your family, for example. Yes. Well, aside from playing golf, I do enjoy spending time with the family, even just going out for dinner or visiting relatives and things like that. So there's many things that we do. We like to travel whenever that's possible. Whether it's local, domestic, or foreign, we've done that with my family.
Golf, in fact, is a family activity for the Chuas. George confesses that his wife Vivian is a better golfer than him, and their kids have also taken up this sport. They have two girls aged 22 and 18 and a boy who is now 17. Nope, George has no grandchildren to speak of yet, as his children are still quite young. George explains that he married rather late in his 30s. And this busybody's advice to young people out to carve their own career paths?
There is no one correct way of doing things, because several people have different career paths that they may be successful in. You can be an entrepreneur and be successful, but much like the same way, you can be a career person, meaning to say you can work in the private sector or in the government and be a successful person. Not everybody needs to work for somebody, but some people feel that that's their calling. Some people decide to do just charity work, and that's also all right because they're doing something worthwhile. So the thing there is that whatever it is that you try to do, you should try to do it well. Meaning to say, you should try to do it with integrity, honesty, and be good at what you're doing. You should strive to become proficient and efficient in whatever it is that you decide to do.
A truly active life in pursuit of his varied interests, George says he only wishes to be remembered simply when he does hang up his gloves.
When I retire, well, I'd like for people to think that I did my best, and that I hope that I had been part of something good, and it has been able to help out a lot of people.
You have just met up close and personal Mr. George Chua, President of the Federation of Philippine Industries and BIKE, among his many positions.